driving a GT3 on the racetrack? Do you know that acceleration, all of that? Explain it to us, to the laymen amongst us on the racetrack.
You know, for a driver in the AMG GT3, it's a little bit like going to work, but it's a really nice place to play. The car does everything so perfectly well in the race car. Its braking performance is extraordinary. The tire wear, if we don't do donuts, is really quite good. We have an amazing fuel economy, and the car is just a pleasure to drive. It's very predictable, it's very powerful, and it's not too hard for the driver to adapt to the changes in the car. So it really becomes a perfect racing car.
And actually, this stunning, incredible beauty next to me, the GTR, has borrowed a lot of elements from the motorsport sector, from the GT3, and we'll be explaining all the bells and whistles and details about it, also linking back to our GT3. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sepang, the racetrack where just 1 week ago there was a MotoGP, 4 weeks ago the final Formula 1 Grand Prix in Malaysia. Welcome to our Mercedes-Benz driving experience, and welcome to the launch of our latest dream car, the latest super sports car out of the house of AMG, the AMG GTR, spearheading the AMG GT family. For AMG, it has been a great year. For Mercedes-Benz Motorsport, it has been a great year. For Mercedes-Benz in total, it has been a fantastic year. AMG itself stands for speed, performance, acceleration, agility, and that racing feeling. And which better car to embody that than the AMG GTR? This year is the 50th anniversary of AMG, and AMG is the home of motorsport. It's a driving performance brand of Mercedes-Benz, and it stands for that racing DNA, which is truly embedded into our brand. And we started this year to celebrate the 50th anniversary of AMG with the launch of the 43 AMG range this year in May, and most of you were here to witness us when we rolled down this straight with our full entire lineup of the 43 AMGs. Just 4 weeks ago, we celebrated the final Formula 1 race in Malaysia and the 50th anniversary of AMG with the launch of the E63, the incredible E63, while having our Formula 1 party. Talking about motorsport, it has been an incredible year as well on that scene. We've been able to capture for the 4th Drivers and Constructors Championship. Lewis Hamilton, 4th championship, and 4th Constructors Championship in a row for the Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula 1 team. But now, enough about that. Let's get straight to this car, the stunning super sports car, a racing car, street legal with the performance ratio of a supercar. Let me get straight to the point. It's a V8 bi-turbo performance engine with a dry sump lubrication. It's got 585 horsepower, 700 Newton meters of torque, 318 km per hour top speed, 3.6 seconds 0 to 100 acceleration, and 7 minutes 11. Let me repeat that. 7 minutes 11 on the most demanding racetrack, the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife, the Green Hell. And that's why we call this car the Beast of Green Hell. Peter, in terms of driving performance, about its capabilities, share us a bit from a racer's perspective what this car is all about.
Well, if we begin with the engine that you discussed, the dry sump. The dry sump means that we, on a performance environment when the car is pulling G-force, is not subject to surge, oil surge. So the engine will always have the oil supply that it needs and will always create the performance that the engineers have designed from the very beginning. And the dry sump comes directly from motorsport. Its origins are in motorsport.
So we started earlier saying it's copied, or actually had a lot of elements from motorsport, from the GT3. In comparison to the GT3, how does this car perform?
It feels very similar to drive, in fact. The dynamics, the characteristics are very similar, but actually this car is more advanced, believe it or not, when it comes to the traction control settings. In the car we have here, the traction control settings, which you'll see, the yellow dial on the instrument cluster, is directly from our racing program, but the GT3 electronics were developed before the GTR electronics. So it's the same system, but we have an updated version in the GTR, which makes it even newer than in the race car, more efficient.
So this car is in every dimension a true race car. Doesn't matter if we're talking the suspension, the transmission, the aerodynamics, the weight, all of this shouts loud, true racing feeling. Let us get into a few of the highlights. The transmission, the AMG Speed Shift 7-speed DCT sports transmission. That's a long word, sentence. Explain us, what does that actually mean?
It means it shifts gears really efficiently, it shifts gears really quickly, and it provides the driver with the confidence it needs on power and on deceleration that the car will be in the right gear all of the time.
And I would say it's perfectly in conjunction together with our AMG Dynamic Select and the AMG Drive Unit.
Yeah, of course, we have the Dynamic Select, which allows the driver to go from comfort to Sport Plus. And it's important to understand that these are the personalities of the car. On a Formula One circuit like we see here, Sports Plus would be the selection that you choose because it's perfectly adapted to a race circuit. If you're on a bumpy facility like the Green Hell, for example,
the Nordschleife,
we would be on Sport setting instead because the suspension is more compliant. So these Dynamic Select options are very real personalities for the car.
So what you're actually telling us, it's not that I'm always in comfort and you're always in Sports Plus. These three modes are actually adapted. You can personalize the settings of the car according to the racetrack or the driving conditions you're in.
Yeah, and your own personal preferences.
I'll stay with the comfort mode because I'm limited capabilities in that sense. But now, we talked about the transmission, let's talk about the suspension. In terms of this car, in terms of how it's handling, in conjunction or in comparison to a GT3 or any other road car, tell us the specifics.
A lot of effort went into designing the suspension componentry, not only the angles but also the materials that we use and the settings that are in the car to enable the car to perform across a wide range of variables, if you like, from normal street driving in comfort mode for you, right through to race mode on a racetrack like you would experience with us later on today. So you'll always find the suspension is compliant. You'll notice around the track today that if we take the curbs in the right setting, it doesn't make the car unstable and the ride control is always there.
And on top of that, it's got the adjustable rear wheels.
Yeah.
How does that work in terms of slow cornering, fast cornering? And please explain it to me as a layman.
So now we have the ability to have rear steering in a car. So at less than 100 kilometers per hour, the rear wheels will turn to support the front wheels, enabling the car to take a tighter corner. At high speed, we need to create stability with precision, so the rear wheels will actually turn the opposite direction to enable the car to track on the high-speed corners.
So what Peter's actually telling us, if you're a real race driver, you get to go around the track even faster. If you're like a layman like me, it's more forgiving in terms of cornering, or giving you that more agility, that more handling, that more control while going at higher speeds.
And more accuracy.
Correct. But speed is the one thing, braking is the other one. It's got the AMG high performance brakes, ceramic brakes, which got the setup, and it's got a durability which is far higher than any other car, and it can decelerate you even quicker.
One of my favorite parts of the GTR is the braking performance, to be honest. It requires very little pedal pressure or pedal effort from the driver's point of view to create exceptional braking performance. The carbon ceramic brakes that you feel today have a high resistance to fading, so in a performance environment, the brake pedal will stay true and firm as you would expect in a performance car. And you'll also find that its ability to dissipate heat or deal with extended periods of heat is extraordinary. And the wear rates are very low.
It lasts you for 100,000 clicks on a racetrack,
That's the
which is incredible. So we've talked about the technical gadgets, the braking, but let's talk about the weight. How important is weight in such a car?
Well, if you look at Lewis Hamilton, he's as skinny as a whippet, for example. He's a bit like you, doesn't carry any extra weight.
I need one quick anecdote. He was eating cookies in the morning, and his fellow driving instructors were saying, Peter, you were racing in 2 weeks, can you stop that, please?
Yeah, well, but weight is very important on a racetrack. If you imagine you had to go for a run up a hill, maybe a 10-kilometer run, you could run as you are now, or I could give you a backpack and it had maybe 20 kilos of lead in it, and you have to run with the lead. A race car or a performance car on a racetrack is, if you have to carry extra weight, it exhausts you. It adds additional wear to the components. It increases fuel economy. It reduces fuel economy. It makes the lateral G, it's harder to brake, harder to accelerate because the car is heavier. So the more weight we can take out of the car, the less it has to carry, which means it has more performance and more longevity, which is why components like the carbon fiber roof are important.
And actually it decreases the handling. And for instance, if I look at the carbon ceramic brakes, they weigh 17 kgs less than conventional brakes. In total, this vehicle weighs 1,555 kilograms. That's 2.67 kgs per horsepower, making it an incredible performance car.
Yeah, the power to weight ratio is important. How much power do you have? How much weight are you carrying? You combine them, and that's an extraordinary number.
So it's the combination of the 585 horsepower, the weight it has, so we try to save weight in every angle. So for instance, if you look at the carbon elements like the roof or any other part of this car, that reduces weight, giving it more stability, more control, more agility, and more performance.
Exactly.
I think we've covered most of the technical highlights. If you've got a super sports car, you have to have all the technical highlights and all the motorsports elements, but you need to look the real thing. Your favorite or my favorite?
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite, the aerodynamic package that's provided with the GTR. And for the first time in our production cars, we have active aerodynamics. So we have the ability to change the airflow around the car to increase performance, to increase cooling, to open and close the venting in the front to create downforce that gives you the grip and the confidence you need.
Now you see the difference. He's a true race driver. He explains that. I'm the car enthusiast. My favorite is the Panamericana grille, which you see up front. That gives it like that true AMG DNA, that racing motorsports history, and it just makes this car a stunning appearance on the road.
But it's also been angled forward for aerodynamics, so
True.
it has four-man function.
So, you talked about the aerodynamics and the Panamericana grille. Let's walk to the back and let's look at the rear adjustable spoiler. What does that do to the downforce? Does it enhance it? How does it impact the stability of the car on the racetrack?
Having the ability to change the air distribution underneath the car, we have the ability to bring the air up through the back of the car. There are some exhaust vents, if you like, in the middle of the bumper bar here that change the airflow to create a Venturi effect, effectively sucking the car onto the ground at high speed, providing the downforce that you'll experience.